ಗುಡ್ ಮಾರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಲೀಡರ್, ಶ್ರೀಶ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು ಮಂಗಳೂರಿಂದ. ಸೊ ಈ ಮಿಲಿಯನೇರ್ ಮೈಂಡ್ ಸೆಟ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮಿಲಿಯನೇರ್ ಆಗುವಂತದ್ದು 1 year ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಇದ್ದು 4th ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಇದೆ. ಇವತ್ತು ಇನ್ನೂ ಕೆಲವು ತುಂಬಾ ಐಡಿಯಾಸ್ಗಳು ಅಥವಾ ಥಾಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ಗಳು ಅಥವಾ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಟಜೀಸ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಈ ಈ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಡಿಯೋದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಕಲಿಲಿಕ್ಕಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಸೊ ಅದ ಕಾರಣ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಅಟೆಂಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿ ಕೇಳಿ ನೋಟ್ಸ್ ಬರ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಗಳನ್ನ ನೋಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ಸೊ ಮತ್ತೆ ಕೊನೆಗೆ ನಾವು ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಪರ್ಸನಲ್ ಆಗಿ ನಾವು ಡಿಸ್ಕಸ್ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು. ಸೊ ಈಗ ಬಾಬ್ ಅವರಿಂದ ನಾವು ಈ ವಿಷಯವನ್ನು ಕೇಳೋಣ.
You do such a good job there, Mikey, I'm telling you. You know, for the benefit of all the people watching, our company does a phenomenal job. And it's because of the company and the people in the company. You know, I've often mentioned in a hotel, we were doing a lot of work in hotels, if you take all the employees out of the hotel, you don't have a hotel any longer. You have a building full of stuff. And that same applies to a company. If you take the people out of a company, you don't have a company anymore. You just got a building with a whole lot of stuff. We have such a phenomenal group of people, right all the way through the company. It doesn't matter what their position. And Mikey is an absolutely incredible example of a person that has taken this information and used it. Now I'm going to introduce you to a couple other people today that have taken this information and used it. They've gone down a different road, but doing the same thing. When Mikey started with us, she had been working as a nanny. She was just fresh here from the west, from Oklahoma, where she was raised, I believe, on a farm. And she was taking care of 2 little kiddies for a couple. She had no business experience, but she was inquisitive. I remember one day I was in a seminar with her, and I was reading a book, and she asked me what I was reading. And it was the Edinburgh Lectures by Mental Science. And it's a very, very heavy book. And I said, "You want it?" And she said, "Yes." So I just signed the book and gave it to her. Now, I did that with Phil Goldfine, too. Phil Goldfine became an absolute phenomenon in the movie business. Well, Mikey started to study that, and then she started to study everything else. And Sandy raves about just how organized this woman is and what a good job she does. And Sandy, who is our Chief Executive Officer and President, she made Mikey our Chief Operating Officer and Marketing Director. And here's a person who starts out as a nanny and becomes a senior executive in a company we operate all over the world. I think Mikey is an excellent example of what a person can do if they study this information. We have a couple other people that you're talking to here. Tommy Collier was a consultant with our company, and we brought him in as our creative director. Done absolutely creative, just a phenomenal job. I mean, he makes sure all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted from a creative perspective. The guy's head is just, it's a beautiful place to go visit, I'll tell you. Arash Vasagi had been working, I think, for a printing company. I'm not quite sure about that now, but I think so. I don't believe he had earned 100, or if he had, he just earned 100. Arash is, without question, one of the greatest salesmen and sales managers I have ever met. A great, great leader of people. Well, we have people like that down through the company. And it makes such a difference. I often talk with Sandy Gallagher, who's my business partner, and we talk about how fortunate we are to have the team we have. It makes all the difference in the world. I was talking to Jenna Zweigel. She, an interesting lady. She and her husband have built an enormous company. I was looking one day. She was the #1 earner in network marketing. She had earned more millions than anybody else. Started with nothing. It makes perfect sense that she and her husband, Joshua, should build such a successful company. I like mixing with people who are very successful. Now, by that I mean very goal-oriented, very studious, great students. If you're not a great student, you're not going to go very much further than you are. Now, what I want to show you today, if you flip the slides up, Scott, what I want to show you today, I want to welcome you back here first. I want to show you where I started. The man sat down with me and he wrote an R on a sheet of paper. Then he put 3 letters down beside it, 2 H's and a W, and he said, Bob, let this represent happiness, health, and wealth. Then he asked me if I thought he was a happy person. And I said, yeah, I didn't know him that well, but he seemed pretty happy to me. He said, have you ever seen me sick? And I never had. He said, have you ever seen me when I was broke? This guy always had money on him. And I noticed that because I never had any. I mean, I was always broke. Now, at that time, you could buy 5 gallons of gas for $2. I was always trying to find somebody who would lend me $2 to get 5 gallons of gas, just to keep the car going. I was not in a good place. I was an unhappy guy. He said, have you ever seen me when I was broken? I said, no. Well, he said, you know, you've got to be one of the most miserable people, Bob, I've ever met. He didn't know me that well, but he had known me for a little while. And he said, you're always sick. And he said, you're always broke. Now, he was actually being kind. I was earning $4,000 at the time a year, but I owed $6,000. You see, I could never get ahead of the game. I didn't know the 6 in one place. I owed it all over the place, 100 here, 50 there. So everybody was always after me for money. They were getting me upset. I would get angry. I owed them the money, and I'm getting angry. I mean, I was totally off track. And he said, Bob, why don't you change your results? I'm going to tell you that God's truth, it never entered my mind. It never entered my mind that I could change my results. And I think there's a lot of people living like that. There's probably people on this call like that. You just never really look at your results and think they're your results in life. And you can change them. And he said, do you ever study anything? And I said, no, I can't read. He said, well, that wasn't true. You see, I could read, not very well. But he said, Bobby said, the secret of the ages is locked up in books. In fact, Robert Collier, back in 1934, wrote a book called The Secret of the Ages. And he had The Secret of the Ages in that book. Robert Collier was a great writer. Well, Napoleon Hill wrote this book, and he said, Bob, he spent his whole life writing this book. 500 of the world's most accomplished individuals, that's what this book's about. He studied their lives. He was like a scientist studying their lives. And he took all his information and put it together. Now, he actually put it together in 8 books. I'll show you. I've got those 8 books right here. If you take a look, I've got them tilted forward. You see, can you see those, Scott? Yeah, there they are. I have Mary Morrissey's picture. She just sent me this picture. To my once-in-a-lifetime friend, Mary Morrissey's a wonderful woman. And I put her here because her suit is the color of the books. She's red. But these are 8 books that Napoleon Hill wrote at the command of Andrew Carnegie, who was the wealthiest man in the world. Thank you, Scott. Then he took those 8 books and he winnowed it down and he put it in one book, Think and Grow Rich. He said, Bob, if you will do exactly what I tell you and read this every day, you can have anything you want. Now, when you take a guy that's unhappy, sick, and broke, he's earning $4,000, he owes $6,000. I dropped out of school in grade 9. I had 2 months high school. I had no business experience. And he's telling me I can have anything I want. See, there was no foundation for any. Well, how could I believe that? I couldn't believe it. But you know something? I believed he believed it. And looking back, I operated on his belief. And sometimes that's what you're going to do. In 1 year, I was earning $175,000. In less than 5 years, I was earning over $1 million a year. And I was doing that cleaning offices, by the way. I was prepared to do anything honest to clean up, to earn money. And the guy said, there's good money cleaning offices if you're doing it for yourself. I got into contract, some buckets and mops, and I did it for myself. In 5 years, we were doing Toronto, Montreal, Boston, Cleveland, Atlanta, London, England, earning over $1 million a year. And I was being very irresponsible. I was just throwing the money all over the place. And one day, I come out of the Playboy Club on Park Lane in London, England. I was living over there. It was right beside the London Hilton. It's gone now, of course. And I'd go in there and play roulette. I didn't care if I lost. I usually won. Because I thought I know where the money is. But it was almost like I had some kind of euphoric experience, and I thought, this is not right what I'm doing. This is just not right. And I thought, how did my life change so dramatically? My mind went back when I had nothing, when Ray first met me. What actually happened? And you know something? I didn't know. I did not know. But there was a metamorphosis had taken place in my life. There was such a phenomenal change. And I didn't know what had happened. So I made up my mind I was going to find out. It took me 9.5 years. But I found out exactly why Bob changed. And when I found out, all I wanted to do is teach other people what I had learned. I thought there must be a lot of people that are where I was, and they don't know how to change. School doesn't teach us how to control our life. But we can be in control of our life. God gave us that ability. Well, I started to study it, and I started to teach it. And I'm still doing it. Many, many years later, 60 years after I picked this up, I am still going strong. Now, I want you to look at this for a moment. This is a very important paragraph. He said, there's a difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. No one's ready for a thing until they believe that they can acquire it. The state of mind must be belief and not mere hope or wish. Now he says, closed minds will not inspire faith, courage, or belief. You've got to believe. He said, no one is ready for a thing until they believe. And he pointed out that was the key. You've got to believe. Now, do you see, somewhere along the line, my belief system shifted. I had a mentor, a phenomenal mentor, Val Vanderwall. I had a number of mentors in my life. And I'm going to tell you something. If you don't have someone that you're learning from, you should find someone. Because I honestly believe everybody has to have a mentor, somebody that you respect, somebody that you trust. And then you've got to do exactly what they tell you. That's what I've done. I was having lunch with Val one day, and just in idle conversation, he said, our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently, if we reevaluate a situation, our belief about it will change. Now listen, I'd been studying the Bible, the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran, the Torah, all the Book of Mormon, all the religious books. Because I know there's only two places to go to find out something about yourself. One is religion or theology, and the other is science. And I was studying on both sides of the track. I just could not get enough information. I wanted to find out, why did I change? Why did someone that was such an absolute mess bring order and prosperity into their life? How did it happen? Well, it happened because my belief system changed. He said, our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently, if we reevaluate a situation, our belief about it will change. And all of a sudden, it dawned on me. That's why my life has changed. I have been studying all this material. I've been studying this book every day, like he said. But I've studied all this material, all the great authors, and most of them go back over 100 years. And you know what happened? I was studying me, and my belief of what I could do changed. And as my belief system changed, everything changed. And look at here. He says, remember, no more effort is required in order to aim high in life to demand abundance and prosperity than is required to accept misery and poverty. So let's take a look how it changes. Here's a person here. Okay, there's the mind and the body. Now there's senses, but there's a power flowing into our consciousness. As this power flows into our consciousness, we can build images with it. And we build the image of the good we desire. And then we're told to get emotionally involved with those images. And they'll move into form. But something happens. We get emotionally involved, and what happens? The results aren't there. The results are not there. The images fixed in our subconscious mind control our vibration, and our vibration controls what we attract. So you see, you made the image, you did exactly what you said, you got emotionally involved, but your results are not there. What's the matter? The paradigm must be altered before your new image can move into form. If you don't get rid of that paradigm, if you don't change that paradigm, nothing changes. You see, through repetition of listening to all this material and studying it, my paradigm shifted. Now look at, pay attention here. This could be one of the most important slides that you'll look at. This is you. Here's a power flowing into your conscious mind, and you've got the ability to build an image of the good that you desire. In 1973, I took my pen and I sat down and I said, I'm going to build a company that operates all over the world. Sandy Gallagher joined me in it was 15, 16 years ago. I've forgotten what date it was. And she bought into that idea. All of our chief executives bought into that idea. It was about a little over a month ago, Mikey Steller phoned me one night. She said, Bob, I thought you'd like to know, we just went into every country in the world. The image was fulfilled, but not by accident. You see, I knew that there was a paradigm there, and I knew I had to get emotionally involved regardless of the paradigm. I had to see the good that I desire. I had to feel it with my emotions. And I knew if I did, if I could plant that image in my subjective mind, that I would realize it in my material world. Spirit always manifests through its polar opposite. Now look at the image you impress upon your subconscious mind controls your vibration. Your vibration controls what you attract. And that's where your results come from. There's no accident, but you've got to know, to get emotionally involved with your idea, you've got to override that paradigm. It's not an easy thing to do, but you can do it. Now look here for a moment. Many people believe that success is a matter of being in the right place at the right time. I talked about Janice Weigel. She wasn't in the right place at the right time. She recognized an opportunity and acted on it. That's what I did. I'm going to introduce you to a couple of people who've done that. See, many people believe that success is a matter of being in the right place at the right time. I'm going to tell you something. You've got to believe that you're in the right place at the right time. You've got to be aware of it. You've got to be aware that you are in the right place at the right time. I believe that there's opportunities surrounding you all the time. Now look at, pay attention here. We're talking about levels of awareness. We talked about that the first day. You've got to create awareness. Well, there's many levels. You start out on an animalistic level, and you end up here on a master's level. So you end up, I just held a little baby. My little great-granddaughter was here. I was holding her in my arms. She was only 6 months old. A little tiny baby. She reacts to everything in life. Her parents respond to everything in life. That is the difference. That's what you grow. You develop it. You see, when you react, it's fight or flight. When you respond to whatever's happening, you think and plan. So when things happen around you, you don't react to it, you respond to it. Now look at. You go to the next one, and you're following. I got to fix that right now. It's not right. Hold on. This is a mess. Well, the second one is follow the masses. I'll have to fix it later. It's too tricky there. You go from reacting to following the masses. That's where the paradigms really come up. Now, something happens. You're following the masses. You're locked in. You're following the crowd that you're hanging out with. And something happens inside of you. You aspire to something greater than what you've got. That aspiration is a desire for something greater than what you've got. That happened to me when I was given this book. Something happened inside of me. I aspired for something greater than what I had. I developed a desire for something. And that desire came to me. And then, why does it come? Because you're an individual and you want to express your uniqueness as an individual. You are God's highest form of creation. There is nothing like you. You are unique. You want to express your uniqueness. Now look what happens. The desire wants to express itself because you want to express your uniqueness, and the paradigm's pulling you back. The paradigm pulls you back, and the desire is pulling you ahead. So it's back and forth, back and forth. And what happens? You realize that if you have discipline, if you give yourself a command and follow it, you're going to win. But you know something? You start that, and the paradigm pulls, and the discipline dissipates. It's gone. And you find, again, that it was just a wish, and you're stuck. You're absolutely stuck. Pull that down. You're trying so hard, and you're stuck. Now look at. Having trouble here. Okay, in the wrong place with that. Here we are. Get it up to there. Man, I'm messing this up. There. You've been trying, but you're stuck. The paradigm pulls you back. Your desire is pulling you ahead. And then one day you realize that you can change all this. Discipline is the ability to give yourself a command and follow it. Wants and disciplines must be connected. If you really want something and you're not disciplined, you're going to have trouble. You're just going to cause yourself frustration. You've got to bring discipline into your life. Discipline is the ability to give yourself a command and follow it. Now look at. When you do that, and you start to see that the discipline is falling apart and it's turning into a wish, you just say no, and you stop it right there. You just stop it right there, and you say, this is it, I'm going ahead. And so you move ahead, and you get up into an experience. That's where you really learn by the experience. Your actions change your results. You see, you took a new idea and you acted on it. And everything in your life started to shift. Everything shifted. Your whole life changed. And here you find yourself now in control. You think and you plan. You're responding. And everything in your life changed. Now, there's only two ways to change that paradigm. Look at here. One is constant spaced repetition of an idea, and the other is an emotional impact. Let that line represent the sound of my voice. It could be the sound of a recording. The red line represents you listening to the sound of the recording. And all of a sudden an idea hits, and away you go on a thought trip. Now you're up here on a thought trip, but let's understand, while you're up here thinking, that recording is still playing and you're not listening to it. You hear it, but you're not listening. There's a difference between hearing and listening. And then you come back down, you start to listen again. And you move along, and bang, another idea hits, and away you go on another thought trip. And that's the way it goes all the way through the recording. Now look here. If you want to change your paradigm, you've got to realize how the paradigm was formed. It was formed through repetition of ideas. And that's the way this is going to be formed. By listening to this same recording, maybe 1,000 times, you'll hit on the same idea a number of times. But if you just listen once, it isn't going to happen. You put it on the second time, where do you stop? You stop over here. You're not stopping where you stopped last time at all. You see, there's no way that this is going to happen, that you're going to stop in the same place every time. Just not going to do it. And that's what you have to do. So it's the repetition of playing this over and over and over again. Now understand, it's 5% strategy and it's 95% mindset. You've really got to get into the mindset. It's all repetition. It's all repetition. Now I'm going to show you something about making a decision. Then I'm going to introduce you to a couple of people that made big decisions, and they were very well rewarded. Here's something about a decision. There's Andrew Carnegie and Napoleon Hill. Andrew Carnegie was the wealthiest man in the world when he took on the job of mentoring Napoleon Hill. Now, Napoleon Hill was a young reporter for a magazine, and the magazine was doing an article on wealthy people. Hill lucked out. He got a 3-hour interview with Andrew Carnegie, who was the wealthiest man in the world at the time. What he didn't know is that Andrew Carnegie was looking for someone like Napoleon Hill. He was looking for someone that would quote and write the laws of achievement. He had interviewed over 250 people, and he never found the right person. But while Hill was interviewing Carnegie, Carnegie was sizing up Hill. At the end of the 3-hour interview, Andrew Carnegie said to Napoleon, he said, "This interview isn't ending, it's just beginning. I want you to come home with me." And he took him home, and for 3 days, he explained how he became the wealthiest man in the world. He had come from Scotland as a little boy with his parents. Family had nothing. They started out with nothing. So here's a little boy, moved to the east coast of the United States from Scotland, and they had nothing. And he became the wealthiest man in the world. And he took 3 hours and he explained the whole philosophy to Hill. And then at the end of the 3 hours, he said, "Napoleon, I'm going to ask you a question. And I just want a yes or a no answer. Listen carefully." He said, "I'm going to ask you a question, and I just want a yes or a no answer." What he didn't tell him is he only gave him 60 seconds to answer the question. If you're going to come to work with me, and you take longer than 10 seconds to answer a question, I don't want you to work with me, because I'm following the principle he followed. That's why he had the stopwatch. He asked him an important question. And he said, "Would you spend the rest of your life working on an idea that you would probably receive no material compensation for at least 20 years? In 29 seconds, Hill said he would. 29 seconds. He found out later, Hill and Carnegie had only given him 60 seconds. After he did this, he said, "Now, Napoleon, you're going to have a problem." He said, "Everything in you is going to want to quit long before your project is finished." And he said, I'm not going to subsidize you. I'll give you no money. You're going to have to earn your own way. But he said, "I'm going to introduce you to some of the wealthiest and some of the most successful people in the world. And I want you to interview them. And I want you to write the laws of achievement." It's an enormous job. Took him 20 years. It was in 1908 he did that. It was in 1928 those books I just showed you were published. And I've got a set of them sitting there behind me. Now, this is a big idea. This was a very big idea. And, you know, Hill asked him one question. And here's the question. He said, "I want you to take this affirmation and I want you to study it. I want you to memorize it." And here it is. "Andrew Carnegie, I'm not only going to equal your achievements in life, but I'm going to challenge you at the post and pass you at the grandstand." He said, "I want you to repeat that every day." Hill threw his pencil on the floor. Now he says, "No, you know darn well that's not going to happen." And Carnegie said, "I know it's not, Napoleon, unless and until you bury that idea in your subconscious mind." Now he said, "Will you read this every morning and every night, looking in the mirror while you read it?" Well, he said, "I could do that." For 30 days, he said, "I could do that." He didn't believe this would happen. First time he read it, he locked himself in the bathroom because he didn't want his brother to hear him, was living with him. And he whispered it, Andrew Carnegie, I'm not only going to equal your achievements in life, but I'm going to challenge you at the post and pass you at the grandstand. Now listen, I found out through studying, Andrew Carnegie made something like 50 millionaires. Napoleon Hill has made millions of millionaires. He accomplished what Andrew Carnegie wanted to accomplish. He answered the question in 29 seconds. Now here's another one. There's John Kennedy talking to Dr. Wernher von Braun. When Dr. Wernher von Braun, they're both gone now, God bless him, he was the father of the space program. That was the mastermind behind us getting to the moon. And John Kennedy asked him, he said, Doctor, what would it take to build a rocket that will carry a person to the moon and bring him back safely to Earth? And his answer was the will to do it. Just the will to do it. What would it take? He said the will to do it. 10 seconds he gave him the answer. See, these were enormous questions that were asked. What would it take to build a rocket to the moon? 10 seconds he gave him an answer. He knew that if a person made their mind up, and that's what they focused on, that's how you focus is with the will, they would do it. Now look, I'm going to show you something here about decision. Then I'm going to talk to a couple of people that made big decisions. Now think of this for a moment. People I was talking to understand the laws, and that's why they accomplished what they accomplished. Let these lines represent levels of vibration, okay? Every level of vibration is connected to the one above and the one below. There is no line of demarcation. Everything in this universe is connected. That's the first thing we've got to understand. Whatever we want, if we get on the frequency that it's on, we're connected to it. Pay attention to this. This is so important. Let's suppose that's your phone. And let's suppose this is my phone. And I have your number and I phone you. We're connected. We can look at each other. We can talk to each other. Now, we seem to have a basic understanding of this when it comes to using our phones. However, when it comes to life, we get lost. I don't know if most people even understand what they're doing. They just dial and start talking. They don't know what the hell they're doing. They don't understand that they put themselves on a frequency, that that's what this phone does. They don't know that. Now think. If that works there, where else would it work? Well, let's look and see where it works. There's levels of vibration, and they're referred to as frequencies. We think on a frequency. You and I think on a frequency. Let these thoughts represent your thoughts. Now really pay attention here. This is so important. We're trying to do this in a short period of time. I mean, I've done this for 60 years. Look at this. They're your thoughts, and that's why you're getting the results you're getting. Now, if you're not doing well, it's because of the thinking. It's not because of how hard you're trying. It's the thinking that gives you the results. And you'll say, well, that's not what I want. This is what I want. Well, I mentioned that before. My mind is a center of divine operation. Divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression. There's something in me, there's something in you that's never satisfied with where you're at. There was a little boy, my grandmother pretty well raised me, and Grandma used to say, you should be satisfied with what you've got. Now, she was a dear woman. She was just like an angel of God. And they just came one time when she was sleeping and took her home. But she was wrong. You should never be satisfied. You should be happy with what you've got, but always dissatisfied. You see, it's the spirit within you wanting to express itself in a greater way that causes a dissatisfaction. You say, that's what I want. Now, here's where the mistakes fly in. That's what I want. I'm going to get it as soon as I get the money. I want you to look around the room you're in. I'm thinking you're probably at home. I'm in my studio. I see chairs and tables and cushions and cameras. I see them all over the place. Do you know I don't need anything that is in this room? Do you know why I've got it? I got it because I wanted it. You don't need anything that's in the room you're in. Well, there may be one or two things you do need, but you got it because you wanted it. When you really want something, you will always find the money for it. That's a law. Write that down. For goodness sake, write it down and don't ever forget it. When you really want something, you will always find the money. When you say, that's what I want, and I'm going to do it as soon as I get the money, you're on the wrong track. And pretty soon, you're saying, that's what I want. And then you're making this decision. The decision will fade long before you get it. And pretty soon then, the decision fades. And then next thing, the goal fades. And you never went there at all. No, why not? You're on the wrong track. You see, you're thinking down here on this frequency. And your goals are way up here on this frequency. Now pay attention here. That'd be like listening to an AM band on your radio and wondering why you're not getting FM music. You're never going to get FM music when you're on an AM band. You're on a frequency that's much too low. Well, when you're talking about the results you're getting, that's a frequency that's much lower. You got to go on that higher frequency. You got to get up there and you got to think and act like that. You've got to begin to think and act like the person you want to become. Now pay attention to what I'm saying. You got to make a committed decision you're going to do it. Then you've got to think and act. Now what happened here? You're thinking up there and you're not down there anymore. Here's the thing. What about all your friends down there? What are they going to say when you start thinking and acting like this? You're going to start acting like you've already got your goal. You're going to say, who do you think you are? And you know it's important what our friends think of us. And so we stop doing it. You got to stick with it. You've got to stay with it. Want is the only prerequisite for making a decision. I don't care what it is you want. If you want it, you will always find everything that is essential to get it. I wanted to build a company that operates all over the world. It took me from 1973 to 2021, and I never gave up that picture. I knew that if I held the picture in my mind, it had to happen. And look at, you keep doing this. That's why successful people make decisions so fast. That is why. That is why Dr. Wernher von Braun told President John Kennedy that he needed to make a decision to go to the moon. All he needed was the will to do it. That's all you need to get to where you want to go. You just have to control the flow. You're a massive energy. You're God's highest form of creation. And when you start to control the flow, you're away. You're away to the races. Now, I've talked about some interesting things. I'm going to introduce a lady right now, Julie Carty. Now, listen. I want you to listen carefully. You remember I said early in the presentation, sometimes you may have to quit the job you're at to get what you want. This lady had a very good job. I mean, a real good job. But she wasn't getting what she wanted, so she quit. Now, I'd like you to bring Julie on here for a moment. Hi, Julie. How are you?
Hi, Bob. How are you?
I'm doing great. I want to thank you for being with us. By the way, you look like $1 million. That must be why you're
like
worth
$1
$1
million.
million.
Exactly.
Tell me, Julie, you have become a consultant with our company. What were you doing? How did this all happen? What were you working at?
So I am, as you call it, unconscious competent, and had a lot of success and had a really great career. I was the vice president of marketing at a Fortune 500, but I had that pull, that deep desire to have my own business forever, but I never believed I could do it. And I made a really big leap and did leave that career to start my own business, to help other women do the same thing, to create businesses. And it was going well, but my paradigm at the time had a ceiling for me. And it was pretty much making almost exactly the same amount that I was making in my corporate career. Shocker there. And I was also noticing a pattern that the women that I was working with, some of them had great success. They were doing what I was suggesting and having great success. And then others we're learning but not doing and not having the success. And for me, it was so important that I had a lot of integrity in how I was helping my clients. And I got really curious of why are some having success and some are not? And I really started to go on the search, and wouldn't you know, that's the first time, and I still can't even believe this, Bob, the first time that I ever really heard of you was earlier this year, which is kind of funny, honestly, but we know there's an orderly sequence of events that need to take place. And I wasn't ready, not at the time until then, to really understand what you teach and how you teach it. And the minute that I attended a session just like this, and I heard you and I was really listening to what you had to say, I knew in that moment that this was what's going to help my clients. And that was only in March, but I knew that what you were teaching was going to be the thing that helped my clients get the kind of results that they wanted to have, but also for me to be able to break through that ceiling to the $1 million mark. I was about a $500,000 business at the time, and I had big goals to become a multi-million-dollar business, but I was stuck personally with my own paradigm. So
what company were you working with, Julie?
I was with IBM for almost 20 years.
Wow. And you were vice president of marketing.
Yes.
And you wanted to coach, and so you quit and opened your own business as a coach. Is that correct?
Yes.
But what you knew in coaching wasn't doing what you wanted to do. You were earning $500,000 as the marketing manager.
Yes.
And when you quit and started coaching, you had a business, you were earning $500,000.
Exactly.
And when you saw what we were teaching, we showed you how the paradigm was in control of you. Your intellect wasn't in control of you at all. I think you knew you were pretty smart, but you didn't know why you were stuck.
Right.
And you made up your mind that you were going to figure it out. And it was in a launch just the same as this, meeting just like this past March.
Yeah.
Now, since you've started with us as a consultant, what have you earned?
$330,000 in a 9-day period of
You earned how much?
330,000 US dollars.
In a 9-day period.
Correct.
Now, if somebody had told you you could do that, you probably wouldn't have believed it.
No.
So you can do that in any 9-day period now.
Oh, yes.
Because you've learned the process of how to properly provide this service, and therefore you're going to be lawfully rewarded. See, the amount of money we earn is always in direct ratio to the need for what we do, our ability to do it, and the difficulty there is in replacing us. There's a phenomenal need for what we do. And when you become good at this, you're very difficult to replace. So that naturally causes your stock to go up. And I think you see that now, do you?
Absolutely. And the other most amazing part of that, just like you said, it's the magnet for the work that I'm doing. The women that I'm helping are having massive ahas and breakthroughs and wins themselves, and nothing feels as good as this. And I am in total belief that the next time that we launch will be $1 million launch. I have no doubt. That's what's on my card. Next launch is going to be $1 million launch. And I feel very, very strong in belief on that, because this is how life works.
I will help you. When you do your launch, I will help you.
I would love that.
Well, you got it. Now, Julie, You went through some pretty strong emotional hills and valleys when you're leaving. You have a family, you have a husband, you have children. Did you sit down as a group and talk about this?
We did. And I give a lot of credit to their belief in me. My husband, we recently retired him, but he was a police officer for 25 years. And I was the primary breadwinner when it came to my salary. And here I was going and saying to them, I want to pursue something that I really, really want, that has been pulling at my soul, to have my own business. And we did talk about it, and we made some pretty bold moves and made it happen. When I made that decision, as you say, once you make the decision, the way appears. And it came to me that we needed to downsize the house for a bit, take a step back to pursue the thing that was going to light me up. And I needed to talk to all three of my children, to my husband. This was 5 years ago. And it was it challenging, the ups and the downs? Absolutely. But I'm so thankful that I pushed through it, because I wouldn't trade what I'm doing now for anything.
See,
This is
the beautiful truth is, Julie, when you're doing these, when you're making these decisions, there's a lot of fear enters the picture. But when you face the fear, it leaves you. And you replace it with faith in yourself. And that's really what it is. And there's so much in self, because you're God's highest form of creation. You've got this phenomenal power, and it's just a matter of learning how to work with it properly. Julie, you've done a phenomenal job with us. I want to congratulate you. And I think anybody listening really wants to pay attention to what Julie's done, because anybody can do what she's done. In a 9-day period, when she first started, she earned over $300,000. Well, that can be earned in any 9-day period. And she's learned that now. See, once you do something, you can't take that experience away. Julie, I want to thank you a lot. I want to thank you for coming on here and sharing your experience with people that would probably love to do what you're doing. And we want them to do it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for leading the way.
My pleasure. I want to now introduce you to a friend of mine, and he is a very good friend of mine. John Tallarico was a client of ours. He came to our seminars. He paid attention to what was going on. I was forever playing the record, I Can See Clearly Now, by Johnny Nash. I loved the record. There's a couple of them that I really loved. That was one of them. John found out where Johnny Nash lived. Johnny's gone now. He's passed away since. He lived in Houston. John Tallarico went and bought a record, a long-playing record. And he took it, and he had Johnny Nash autograph that record to me. To Bob, from Johnny Nash. Have a bright, sunshiny day. Lyrics read off the thing. And he had it framed where the records pulled a little out from the sleeve where you could see the autograph on it. And it's in a frame. It's something I truly treasure. John Tallarico was always successful because he was doing things that bring success. Now, John, I want to call you on here for a moment.
Good morning, Bob.
How are you, John? John,
I'm fantastic. Sir.
when did you were around our company for quite a while before you became a consultant, a long while. What caused you to become a consultant with us?
It was that constant repetition of hearing you that if I changed my thinking, I could have whatever I wanted, Bob. And what I've always wanted to do was to teach. And I allowed the terror barrier, the committee, I call it, to keep me from going after my goal and dream. And I finally I'd had enough last year. Had enough.
The committee, I like that. Do you remember where you were when you made the decision?
I do. In my living room, I saw a picture of my two children. They're 4 and 5 years old. And I paused for a moment. They were able to meet themselves one time a couple years ago, and I have that picture in my living room. I saw that picture and I stopped for a moment and I said, one day they're going to ask me, Dad, what is it that you exactly do? Now, you know, Bob, I spend a lot of time helping everyone else put together a lot of interesting deals and partnerships, but I wasn't doing anything for myself that I truly loved. And I said, enough already. And I called your son and said, let's go. I want to become a consultant. And I made that committed decision. That was last year, in May 19th of last year.
May the 19th of last year. It's just a little over a year.
Yes, I went through the course and actually signed up my first client on July 27th.
What have you earned in the last year, John?
It's been a great year, Bob. Over $1.2 million, sir.
1.2 million from scratch. Do you know?
Yes, sir. No coaching experience, nothing.
Well, the truth is, John, you were very successful when you joined us. You were helping other people. You just said that. And we could see what you were doing. We were thinking, gosh, why doesn't John do something for John? And then you did. 1.2 million. And you're just really getting started. That will go up because you're on a growth pattern. I think the beautiful truth about this is the tremendous opportunity there is in this business. And when you come into this, what do you think of the training that we offer, John?
It is the best in the world. It is absolutely the blueprint for anyone to achieve success and to have the life of your dreams. It doesn't matter if you don't have anything on your wall. I had nothing on my wall. We just signed up client number 200 a few weeks ago, Bob. And so there is no better training out there in the market. I've gone and listened and attended numerous speakers in this field, and there is nobody better than what you put together and thinking into results. So if anyone's listening, go after, stop listening to why you can't do things and start listening and understanding you can achieve whatever you want, that you are God's highest form of creation, that this was manufactured by God Incorporated in pure perfection, and that you are here to have and be whatever you want.
Well, you know, John, you're such a marvelous example. You truly are a marvelous example of what you can do in this business. You're a nice person, you're a good person, and you're out helping other people become better people. That's what you're doing. You know, the training is excellent. My daughter-in-law runs the consulting division. Now, she wasn't my daughter-in-law when she started to work with us. She was working with us for a long time, and my son Brian finally woke up and saw what Corey had going for her, and they started to go out and they got married. And Brian looks after all the affiliates and Corey looks after the consulting division, and she does a phenomenal job. I think what Corey's done is she's put a great team together. She's got a good team of people together to train people to come on. So I want to give her congratulations for what she does and the team that she's got. Doug Dane's a phenomenal guy. And Doug is a consultant that became one of the part of the training division. This is, I believe, John, the best business in the world. And if somebody is listening to me and wants to become a consultant, we want you to become a consultant. And if you will make a decision, like I suggested decisions have to be made, we're going to give you 2 months free of masterclass. The masterclass, it is phenomenal. That's where I'm taking the best that I've learned in my life, and we spend a couple hours on it on Tuesdays. We get into discussions, we get into mind mapping, and we get into lecturing and learning. But the masterclass, you really get into some good stuff. And if you would like to become a consultant like John or like Julie Carty just mentioned, these people are ordinary people that do extraordinary work. And if you can do extraordinary work, if you can give the best you've got to something, we want to support you and we want you on our team. Like, I believe we help millions of people now. I believe we can help millions more. I don't think there's any end to what we can do. I really don't believe there's any end. Recently I've been talking a lot to Jenna Swagel, who owns her own company, and she has a lot of people on here. And she says, you know, if they'll just do what I tell them, they can have anything they want. And I said, you know, Jenna, that is a truth that I was taught when Ray Stanford gave me this book. And here's the beautiful part about it. You don't even have to believe that you can do it. You just have to believe that I believe you can do it. And as Jenna said, they just have to believe that I believe that they can do it. We can show you how to get to where you want to go. It's a magnificent opportunity, and it's as big as you can think. So, John, I want to thank you very much. You're doing a phenomenal job. And I'm so happy you are, because I really like you. Brian and I spent so much time talking about John Tallarico, and we say, God, you know, if we could only help him do. And then when you became a consultant, I thought, thank you, God, because I knew that you would do well. I mean, you've got such great qualities. Everybody can. So, John, I'm going to turn this back over now to Mikey Steller, who's our phenomenal hostess with the mostest. God, she does a beautiful job, this woman, I'm telling you. She always looks like she should be on national television. Well, we are on national television. We're on our television. But if you're thinking, God, I'd love to do what these people are doing, let us know. If I can do it, if Julie can do it, if John can do it, you can do it. There's such phenomenal opportunity here. It's as big as your mind can take you, and we'll help you do it.
ಐ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಈ ವಿಡಿಯೋದಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಗಳು ನಮ್ಗೆ ನೋಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೂಡ ಒಂದೊಂದು ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಗಳು ಕೂಡ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಮಿಲಿಯನ್ ಡಾಲರ್ ವರ್ತದ್ದೇ ಐಡಿಯಾಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ಒಂದಾದ್ರೆ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ನೋಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಈಗ ನೋಡಿ, ಕೆಲವು ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ಗಳು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಕವರ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಕೆಲವು ಮಾತ್ರ ಹೇಳೋದು, ಎಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಥಿಂಕ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಗ್ರೋ ರಿಚ್ ಬುಕ್ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್, ಯಾವ ತರ ಅದರ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ. ನೆಪೋಲಿಯನ್ ಹಿಲ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಆಂಡ್ರ್ಯೂ ಕಾರ್ನೆಗಿ ಅವರದ್ದು ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಆ ಬುಕ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ. ಒಂದು ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅವರು 1 ನಿಮಿಷ ಟೈಮ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ರು, ಬಟ್ ವಿದಿನ್ ಫ್ರಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ಸ್ ನೆಪೋಲಿಯನ್ ಹಿಲ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಕೊಟ್ರು. ಐ ಆಮ್ ರೆಡಿ ಟು ಡೂ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಐಡಿಯಾಸ್ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಇಮಿಡಿಯೇಟ್ಲಿ ಗ್ರ್ಯಾಬ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ನಮ್ಮ ಕೆಲಸ. ಸೊ ಅಲ್ಲದೆ ಅದು ಎಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ನಾವು ಒಂದು ಸರಿ ನಮಗೆ ಒಬ್ಬರು ಐಡಿಯಾ ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ಮೆಂಟರ್ಶಿಪ್ ಅಥವಾ ಗೈಡೆನ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾರಾದ್ರು ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅಂತಂದಾಗ, ಈವನ್ ಅದರ್ವೈಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲಾ ವಿಷಯದಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಪರ್ಫೆಕ್ಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ. ಸೊ ಬಿಕಮಿಂಗ್ ಎ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನೋಂಥದ್ದು ಒಂದು ಮೆಸೇಜ್ ಈ ವಿಡಿಯೋದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು. ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಬಿ ರೆಡಿ ಟು ಲರ್ನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಸೊ ಆ ಒಂದು ಲರ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಮೆಂಟಾಲಿಟಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಇಲ್ಲದಿದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಯಾವುದನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಸಾಧನೆ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗುದಿಲ್ಲ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುವಂತದ್ದು ಮಾತ್ರ ನಾವು ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದು. ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ವಿ ಶುಡ್ ಲರ್ನ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಅದರ್ಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್, ವಿಚ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಶಾರ್ಟ್ ಕಟ್ ಫಾರ್ ಅವರ್ ಲೈಫ್. ಸೊ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಿ ಎ ಗುಡ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಲರ್ನ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಅದರ್ಸ್. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಬಿಲೀಫ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಡಿಸಿಪ್ಲಿನ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳಿ. ನಮ್ದು ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಗೋಲ್ ಸೆಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಬಿಲೀಫ್ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಇರುತ್ತೋ ಇಲ್ಲೋ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ಬಟ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಮೆಂಟರ್ ಅಥವಾ ಗೈಡ್ ಏನೋ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ನೋಡಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ, ಅವರಿಗೆ ಬಿಲೀಫ್ ಇದ್ರು ಸಾಕು. ಇನಿಷಿಯಲಿ ಯು ಫಾಲೋ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ಹಿ ಆರ್ ಶಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾಡಿ. ಅಂತೂ ಬಿಲೀಫ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಮೆಂಟರ್ ಅಥವಾ ಗೈಡ್ ಇಂದ ನಮಗೆ. ಸೊ ಅದ ಕಾರಣ ಒಂದ್ಸರಿ ಆ ಬಿಲೀಫ್ ನಮಗೆ ಬಂದಾಗ ಡಿಸಿಪ್ಲಿನ್ ಯುವರ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಗೆ ಡಿಸಿಪ್ಲಿನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಗೈಡ್ ಅಥವಾ ಮೆಂಟರ್. ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಆ ಡಿಸಿಪ್ಲಿನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಟು ಟೇಕ್ ಆಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ರೆಗ್ಯುಲರ್ಲಿ. ದಿನಾಲ್ ಆಕ್ಷನ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿಕ್ಕೆ ರೆಗ್ಯುಲರ್ ಆಗಿ ನಾವು ಡಿಸಿಪ್ಲಿನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಹೋದ್ರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಗೋಲಿಗೆ ನಾವು ರೀಚ್ ಆಗ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ತುಂಬಾ ಪವರ್ಫುಲ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಇನ್ ಅವರ್ ಲೈಫ್ 5% ಓನ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಟಜೀಸ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಆಗೋದು, 95% ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಮೈಂಡ್ ಸೆಟ್ ಅಂತ. ನಮ್ಮ ಥಾಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್, ನಮ್ಮ ಥಿಂಕಿಂಗ್, ಆ ಒಂದು ಬಿಲೀಫ್, ಫೇತ್, ಇದೇ ಮ್ಯಾಟರ್ ಆಗೋದು. ಆದ ಕಾರಣ ಆ ಥಾಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನು ನಾವು ಆದಷ್ಟು ಅಂತಲ್ಲ 100% ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ದ ವಿಲ್ ಟು ಡೂ ದ್ಯಾಟ್ ಅಂತ ಜಾನ್ ಎಫ್ ಕೆನಡಿ ಹೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಯಾವತ್ತು ನನಗೆ ಆ ಗೋಲ್ಗೆ ರೀಚ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ 100% ನಮ್ಗೆ ಬಿಲೀಫ್, ಫೇತ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಆ ವಿಲ್ ಟು ಡೂ ಬೇಕೇ ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಬಂದ್ರೆ, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಉಳಿದದ್ದು ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆನ್ಸಿ ಆಫ್ ಥಾಟ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ, ನಾವು ಆ ಗೋಲ್ಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ರೀಚ್ ಆಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಇದ್ರೆ ಥಾಟ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಅದೇ ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆನ್ಸಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇರಬೇಕು. ಅವಾಗ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ನಾವು ಏನು ಆಗಬೇಕು, ಏನು ಪಡಿಬೇಕು, ಆ ಒಂದು ಗೋಲ್ ಅನ್ನು ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಪಡೆದಿದ್ದೇವೆ ಅನ್ನುವಂತ ಯೋಚನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯು ವಾಕ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್, ಟಾಕ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಬಿ ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್. ಅವಾಗ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆನ್ಸಿ, ಥಾಟ್ಸ್ಗಳು, ಮಾತುಗಳು ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಅದೇ ಬರೋದು. ಅವಾಗ ನಾವು ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ರೀಚ್ ಆಗ್ಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಬಿ ಲೈಕ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಬಿಕಮ್, ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಸೊ ಅಂತೂ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅಥವಾ ಇದು ಇನ್ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್, ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ 2 ಟೆಸ್ಟಿಮೋನಿ ತರ ಇಬ್ಬರನ್ನು ಕರೆದ್ರು ನೋಡಿ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವರು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಅಥವಾ ಈ ಒಂದು ಈಗ ನಾವು ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ ನೋಡಿ, ಇದನ್ನೀಗ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗುವಾಗ ಆ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬಾ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಹೆದರಿಕೆಗಳು ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಬೇಸರಗಳಾಗತ್ತೆ, ಸ್ಯಾಡ್ನೆಸ್ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಫಿಯರ್ ಇದ್ರೆ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾರ್ಮಲ್. ಗೆಟ್ ಎ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೆಂಟರ್ ಅಥವಾ ನಮ್ ಗೈಡ್. ಈಗ ನಾನು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ನಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಆ ಫಿಯರ್ ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ಭಯ ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ಬೇಸರ ಒಂದು ಮಧ್ಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ತದೆ, ಬಟ್ ಸ್ಟಿಲ್ ಯು ಕೀಪ್ ಇನ್ ಟಚ್ ವಿತ್ ಯುವರ್ ಮೆಂಟರ್ ಆರ್ ಗೈಡ್, ಕೀಪ್ ಆನ್ ಮೂವಿಂಗ್, keep on continuing, you will get there in your goal. ಸೊ ಅದ ಕಾರಣ ಹೆದರಿಕೆ ಬಂದಾಗ, ಫಿಯರ್ ಬಂದಾಗ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ ಮೆಂಟರ್ ಹತ್ರ, ಗೈಡ್ ಹತ್ರ. ಸೊ ಡೆಫಿನೆಟ್ಲಿ ಈ ಐಡಿಯಾಸ್ಗಳು ನಮ್ಗೆ ತುಂಬಾನೇ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಇದು ಅಲ್ಲದೆ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಪಾರ್ಟ್ 5 ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸೆಷನ್ ಕೂಡ ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಕ್ಲೀನ್ ಆಗಿ ಕಲಿಯುವ, ಮತ್ತೆ ನಾವು ನಮ್ಮ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಅಳವಡಿಸುವ. So thank you very much and have a great day.